the 21st century strategy for maritime security, talk about the wonderful relationship that Gary Roughead and I have and Jim Conway and I have. In fact, we just had our Defense Senior Leader Conference the last 2 days here in Washington. A highlight of that was a meeting with the President on Monday night and him hosting the service chiefs and the COCOMs with wounded warriors in the White House. But I thought there was no better way to start this conversation and kind of talk about what the Coast Guard does than to talk about Haiti and give you a little operational update this morning, because I think it's fairly instructive and it plays right into some of the basic tenets that are contained in the maritime strategy, including humanitarian assistance and the security issues associated with what's going on around Haiti right now. And I will apologize in advance. I'm working on about 2 hours sleep. So Secretary Napolitano and I have been up close and personal since about 7 o'clock last night. If you take a look at what's going on in Haiti right now, and I will tell you, because of where we operate and the threats that we deal with routinely, and that would be migration issues from Cuba, Haiti, and the Dominican Republic, counter-drug operations, ships attached to Joint Interagency Task Force South, and our normal search and rescue and other operations that we conduct in and around the Caribbean. We pretty much have a force lay down there all the time. So when this event occurred, we were able to flow forces rather quickly. And there's a pattern here, and this was the same pattern we saw in the floods in Haiti a year ago. Because our forces are permanently apportioned to our field commanders, we can direct them where we need to, and there's no equivalent process of having to sit up and execute order, have an order book signed, as you have to do in DOD. We just flow the forces. So that means we get there first, but sometimes we're not big enough. And as we found out after the floods in Haiti last year, we can get there, establish situational awareness, kind of triage what's going on, take care of some needed emergencies, whether they're medical, evacuation, search and rescue, and so forth. And then ultimately, the Navy brought in the Kearsarge, and they were the big deck that was needed to really, have the sustainability and the platform you needed to operate from. But if you think about it, it's a pretty good 1-2 punch. And it underscores a couple of things that are in the strategy that I think are probably worth discussing a little later on as well, and that's the combination of Navies and Coast Guards and emerging patterns around the world. And I'd like to kind of address that a little bit once we talk about what's going on in Haiti. So here's kind of what happened. We had a cutter near Windward Pass already. So when the sun came up this morning in Port-au-Prince, there was a Coast Guard cutter offshore, command and control, assessing the situation, providing situational awareness. We also launched 2 C-130s and did overflights of the south and north claw of Haiti, both for damage assessment and to make sure that we had a good baseline of what was going on down there. We have helicopters already deployed in the Bahamas in support of Operations Bahamas, Turks, and Caicos, which is a combination task force we work with the Drug Enforcement Administration. So we were able to deploy an H-60 into Port-au-Prince. We're actually conducting some medevacs. Some UN workers down there that were injured as a part of the earthquake. We have a second cutter coming in that'll be there probably later on this afternoon, and a third cutter will be there tomorrow morning. So within about 24 to 36 hours, we have 3 cutters down there, deck capacity to handle hundreds, maybe not thousands, but again, significant capability there very quickly. We have a 4th ship that was making a brief stop for logistics in Guantanamo Bay. And we decided to leave it there for the potential to use it as a way to ferry stuff that could be airlifted into Gitmo, and it's a short steam from Gitmo over to Port-au-Prince. So the laydown, as we're talking about here today, will be 3 cutters in Haiti, 1 cutter in Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, staged for relief supplies when that's needed. And forward deploying C-130s into Gitmo and H-60 helicopters into Gitmo as well. So that's a lot for us. That's not a lot by Navy standards, but if you see that as the first wave, establish situational awareness, then you can kind of fight a holding campaign until you get the larger decks in. I think that's a pretty significant lash-up synergistic relationship between the Coast Guard and, I would say, DOD, not just the Navy. Now, at the same time, General Douglas Frazier was at the DSLIC with me yesterday. We had a conference call with the White House last night. He was on the conference call. And so we're also coordinating with U.S. Southern Command, which would be the modality by which we would bring the DOD assets in as well. The third thing that comes into play here is Guantanamo Bay. And I have stated for a long, long time, when we talk about the status of Guantanamo, I like to distinguish between detainee operations. And Guantanamo Bay is a forward logistics base for us in the Caribbean. And separate from the issues associated with detainees and the camps at Gitmo, there is an enduring high-level need for a forward operating base in the Caribbean. And I try to make that semantic distinction when we're talking about the detainee operations, which, of course, are subject of another policy discussion. So when we move forward, we have one other thing working for us down there. Over the past almost 30 years now, going back to the Mariel boat exodus in 1980, we have refined mass migration plans on how we would react to one of those. And we have a task force that has stood up when that occurs that we have tested again and again over the years. And the last time it was really needed was in the mid-1990s when we had 2 mass migrations from Haiti and 1 from Cuba. So we have pre-existing relationships and doctrine and organizational roles definition, not only between the federal players, but the state and local folks in Florida as well. The head of that task force is our 7th District Commander, it's Admiral Steve Branham down in Miami, and his deputy is actually the Border Patrol Sector Chief for South Florida. And more recently, because of the mass care issues that are potentially involved in a mass migration and our move into Homeland Security, we brought FEMA into that equation. So this morning when I was talking to Secretary Napolitano about what might need to be done in Haiti, we also put on the table dealing with the Office of Foreign Disaster Assistance in state and USAID, and then FEMA has a role to support them. So I would add another issue there, and that's the synergistic relationship of having FEMA and Coast Guard in the same department. I know there's a lot of discussion from time to time whether FEMA ought to be an independent agency, and I get a lot of discussion on the Hill, a lot of inquiries about whether the Coast Guard should still be in transportation or Homeland Security. And my standard reply to all of that is that we are a better organization because we are in a department with FEMA, and FEMA is a better organization because they're in a department with the Coast Guard. And we proved that today.